What is going on, college sports fans? Welcome back to another video. Today, we're taking a look at the Week 3 AP poll because I thought the AP had some questionable choices with their rankings this week, to say the least. And I just kind of wanted to give you guys my opinion on some of these teams, if I think that they are ranked too high, too low, or just right, and if I do think that some of these teams do have playoff potential, and if they've impressed me so far. Make sure you guys do subscribe, though, because I come out with bracketologies every single week. I know it's more of a college basketball thing, and I love college basketball, but I've been doing it for college football. It's been a ton of fun, and we have a ton of other college football content out as well, and a ton more coming. So make sure you guys subscribe. But let's get into this AP poll breakdown. I just kind of wanted to break it down and let you guys know what I think of some of these teams. So Georgia number one, completely fine with that. I think they definitely deserve to be number one, especially after that week one where they beat Clemson pretty bad, looked pretty dominant. So I definitely believe Georgia should be the number one team right now. And then this is kind of where it gets tricky because Texas number two, I'm fine with Texas being number two. I think they're the more deserving number two team over Ohio State. But that's sort of the thing. If you're looking at it more of like a most deserving, you'd probably say Texas because they beat Michigan on the road pretty handily. I'd say that they are most deserving, and you could say power rankings wise, they should be ahead too. But Ohio State, talent wise, power rankings wise, you could argue being above Texas. I think that Texas right now definitely 100% should be number two, so I think the AP poll actually did get that right, and then Ohio State right behind them at number three. But then you go to Alabama at number four, and really Ole Miss number five. Neither of these teams have played like super good competition. Alabama's played a little bit better competition than Ole Miss because Alabama did play Western Kentucky, and then they played South Florida, which are two pretty decent group of five teams. As far as group of five standards, they're kind of like in that upper tier. So they beat Western Kentucky pretty bad, like 63-0. But then South Florida, although the scoreboard says that they beat them by, 3 or 4 scores, it was really close all the way throughout the game until Alabama pulled away in the fourth quarter. Now, South Florida is a really good group of five team. I don't want to knock Alabama too bad because they did handle their business. They did pull away in the fourth quarter. But for them to be number four, I think that there are some more deserving teams ahead of them, and that's kind of where like the preseason, I don't want to say bias, but like the preseason expectations really that we've had for Alabama kind of get in the way. Where you have teams like Tennessee who just had a way more impressive blowout win over NC State, who was another ranked team, doesn't really. Even though they jumped up a lot in the poll, they're not higher than Alabama right now. So that's kind of like, I'm fine with that, but at the same time, are we picking more deserving or are we doing more of a power rankings type thing? Whereas as long as these top teams from the preseason keep winning, we're going to keep them high no matter how they looked. So that's kind of where the tear is there. And really Missouri too, they haven't really played anybody. They have a big game against Boston College next week. That's going to be an interesting one because Boston College is ranked, which I'm not sure they should be, but we're going to talk about them here when we get to them. But yeah, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Missouri, all above Tennessee, where Tennessee had a more impressive win. Let me know what you guys think about that. Are you guys more for the AP poll being more deserving or like power rankings wise? And I'd say Tennessee probably deserves to be top. They definitely deserve to be top 5, but should they be top 5? Number 8, we do have Penn State. And Penn State being here at number 8, they're another one of those teams who struggled and a lot worse than Alabama did. Penn State, after going to Morgantown, beating West Virginia pretty bad, they really struggled against Bowling Green, and they're still in the top 10. Me personally, I would not have them in the top 10 because going to West Virginia on the road is an impressive win, but to bounce back in your first home game and really almost losing to Bowling Green is not a good look. And I would definitely kick Penn State out of the top 10. I feel like top 15 would be fine, but based off the two performances that we've seen on them, I don't think that they deserve to be a top 10 team. Number 9, we do have Oregon, and they're a team that is 2-0. but they did struggle in both of their games. And against Boise State, that's okay to be a close game. Boise State's a really good Group of 5 team, one of the best Group of 5 teams this year. But Oregon probably should have won by a lot more. They were 3-touchdown favorites heading into that game, and for it to be so close, especially after what happened week 1, you're looking at Oregon's resume so far. They don't look like a top 10 team, and really they just, based on the eye tests, they haven't really looked like a top 10 team at all. Dylan Gabriel, although he is putting up some stats, he doesn't really look all that great. So I'm not really that high on Oregon right now. I don't think that they should be a top 10 team at the moment. Miami at 10 kind of seems right. You could probably push them up a little bit. Like, I would probably have them above Oregon and Penn State at this point. But yeah, right around 10, I feel like they are in the right place where they should be at this point. They've looked really good. Cam Ward looks really good. All around, yeah, I feel like they should be a top 10 team. I wouldn't even be mad if they were a couple spots higher at this point. And the same with USC. USC has looked really good so far, especially that win against LSU. And then they shut out their opponent. I know that it was, a FCS team, but shutting out an opponent after holding a high-powered offense at an LSU pretty well in their first game, this USC defense looks pretty decent. I mean, I'm not going to go out there and say it's super improved yet. I want to see more, but at this point in the season, their defense has looked pretty good. I think that they should be a top 10 team. I would move them up. Utah, number 12. I feel like that's like the perfect spot for Utah. They beat a Big 12 team in Baylor, who is in their conference, although it was counted as a non-conference game because it was scheduled before Utah joined the Big 12. But, Baylor's not a good team. They're probably one of the worst teams in the Big 12, honestly, and it was a good win. They did what they're supposed to do, but they don't really have an impressive win yet, so I think 12 is kind of the perfect spot for Utah. Now, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's interesting because they won in double overtime against Arkansas, and the week before that, they beat a really good FCS team in, was it North Dakota? I want to say it's South Dakota State. All the Dakotas super good in the FCS, but Oklahoma State, although they did win in double overtime, it was a home game against Arkansas, and I don't think they looked like all that great in that game, like whatsoever. Like, eye test wise, Oklahoma State is not a top 15 team. I think that they're a top 25 team, maybe, definitely top 30, but 13 is really high for Oklahoma State, and I don't think that they should be that high. I think Oklahoma State, one of the teams on here that really stuck out to me, I don't think that they should be this high. Kansas State didn't look that great against Tulane. I think Tulane is better than we thought that they would be from the preseason, but I still think Kansas State didn't look the best, especially offensively. I feel like, in the second half they started to turn it up a little bit offensively, but honestly they should have won that game by more. I'm pretty high on Avery Johnson, but he's still young. He's only had, these were his first 2 starts this year, so maybe he'll turn it on. They got a big game Friday night against Arizona. Super pumped for that game. I think we're going to learn a lot about them, and we're going to learn a lot more about Arizona. Should be a high-scoring game. I'm super excited for it. Oklahoma at 15. Oklahoma had a really bad performance against Houston, and I actually don't see a lot of people talking about that, because I feel like nobody really was watching that Oklahoma-Houston game just because there was better games on, all that stuff. But Oklahoma looked really bad against Houston, a Houston team that just lost, by 2-3 scores to UNLV the previous week. Yeah, that was not a good performance from the Sooners, and 15 feels really high. I get where they're coming from, though, because power rankings wise, you look at this Oklahoma team, they're supposed to be really good. They got a really good run. And I think Oklahoma will be good, but at this point, do they deserve to be top 15? No, they don't. I feel like they should be further down the board after that performance, kind of similar to like Penn State. I feel like after that performance against Bowling Green, they should be, not as high. So Oklahoma's kind of in that boat from me. LSU at 16, I would probably have them a little bit lower, but honestly, they played in a close game against USC. I can't really fault them too much for that. They didn't look horrible. I feel like that was a high-level football game, and honestly, 16, I'm fine with. If you want to move them anywhere from 16 to 20 to 22 even, I'd be fine with that. I think that they should be a ranked team, though. They're still looked really good in that loss. I think that was a high-level game. Michigan at 17. Honestly, I'd probably have them a little bit lower just because, honestly, their defense, which was supposed to be what was going to carry them this year, didn't look good against Texas. And I think against other teams that don't have as good of an offense as Texas, and as good of a quarterback as Texas, will struggle against Michigan's defense for sure. But 17 at this point, after what we've seen so far this year, I don't think that they should be that high. I would have them in the 20 to 25 range. Notre Dame straight up should not be ranked at this point. And I understand, like I was saying earlier, if you look at like power rankings wise, look at their roster, they should be a top 25 team. Yeah, they should be, but guess what? They're not. They're just not. I don't care what the AP says. Notre Dame is not a top 25 team, and I know that they went on the road and got a really good win against Texas A&M, and that was a really good win. And I was kind of looking at Notre Dame like, okay, they could make some noise. And I was one to say, if they win that game in College Station, they have a clear path to possibly only getting like one loss on the year and getting one of the 5-6 seeds in the playoff. But they go and lose to Northern Illinois at home. It almost seems like it's an annual thing for Notre Dame to do. I remember when they lost to Marshall, and because I'm also a Marshall fan, that was a crazy day. I didn't know it was going to happen again to Northern Illinois. What a crazy upset that was. But straight up, Notre Dame should not be ranked. I'll go ahead and skip ahead to Northern Illinois because they're at 25. I'm fine with Northern Illinois being number 25 because at this point, they have the best resume of the group of 5 teams. Obviously, they beat a former top 5 team in Notre Dame on the road. So I'm fine with them being right there at 25. The only thing is Notre Dame should not be ranked, and especially not ahead of them at 18. I saw that, and that was one of the main reasons I wanted to make this video, because the AP poll is just ridiculous sometimes, and that is just awful. Louisville at 19. You know, Louisville, I feel like 19 is fine. Same with Arizona at 20. I'm fine with that. Haven't played really any good teams yet. Arizona's going to get tested this week. Super excited for that on Friday night. But those feel right. Those two right there. Iowa State. Iowa State's, honestly, they should maybe be a little bit higher. Really impressive win over Iowa, man. That was a really good game. I was super excited to see the Cyclones win the Cy-Hawk Bowl this year. I think that at this point, they have proven that they could win the Big 12 by winning that Iowa game. Now, they still might go 10-2 in the Big 12, but as long as they win the Big 12 championship, they can make the playoff. And honestly, I think Iowa State has some potential in doing that. And preseason, Iowa State was my pick in my college football playoff predictions to win the Big 12 and make the playoffs as the 4th seed. And honestly, not looking too bad at this point. Clemson at 22. I'm fine with this. You know, Georgia's the number 1 team. They beat them up pretty bad, but Clemson performed really good. Their offense looked a lot better than I thought it would against App State. You know, Cade Klubnik struggled in that Georgia game. He looked a lot better in the App State game. I'm fine with them being at 22. I feel like this is kind of where Michigan should be as well. Nebraska at 23. Big win over Colorado. I'm fine with that. They look really good. Nebraska at 23. Fine with that. Boston College at 24. I don't think Boston College should be ranked. I know that they went on the road at Florida State and won. But Florida State is 0-2 to Georgia Tech and Boston College. You know, they're not looking good. And I just don't think Boston College should be ranked. Now, I'm fine with them being, you know, just outside of the top 25. If they get another win, you know, or two, go 4-0, then start moving them up. But I don't know if Boston College is a great team. We're going to find out, though. They're facing Missouri this weekend. And we already talked about Northern Illinois. Completely fine with them being at 25. I just don't think Notre Dame should be ranked, especially not ahead of them. And I just want to talk about a couple of teams that I think probably should be ranked, because I'm talking about Notre Dame, Boston College, teams that I think shouldn't be ranked. I think the two teams that I think should be ranked that weren't in this Week 3 AP poll were Syracuse, who beat Georgia Tech, looked really good with Kyle McCord. Not sure, if they're going to be able to keep that up, but I think at this point they should maybe be around 24, 25, maybe move Northern Illinois to 24, Syracuse number 25. But the team I think should be around the 20 to 23 mark is South Carolina. Absolutely dominating performance against Kentucky. Completely manhandled them on the road at Kentucky. South Carolina is 2-0. Looked really good. I know in week 1 they did not look good, and they barely beat a team that they should have beat by a lot. But man, their defense looked great against Kentucky. I would have them in the top 25 this week. But let me know what you guys think. I also want to give shout-outs to a couple of Group 5 teams. Boise State. I know that they kind of had a rough one against Oregon, but they played really good in that game. I think that they should at least deserve a mention. I wouldn't have them in my top 25 at this point, but I think that they should be in the mix. Also, Memphis and UNLV, two Group 5 teams I'm really keeping an eye out on, and they've looked really good up to this point. But let me know what you guys think about this top 25. Who is not ranked that you guys think should be ranked, and who is ranked that you guys think shouldn't be ranked? And is it Notre Dame? Probably. But let me know down below in the comment section. Make sure you guys subscribe for more college basketball, college football content all the time. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching.